Our next speaker is the Chief Development Officer for the Prison Entrepreneurship Program, PEP. PEP is a pioneering nonprofit organization that delivers the nation's best results in terms of decreased recidivism, increased employment, and small business creation among ex-offenders. Please give an energetic welcome to the very energetic Jeremy Gregg.
Good afternoon. Howdy. What is entrepreneurship? Well, the word entrepreneur comes from an old French word that simply means to undertake. To undertake risk because you see an opportunity that others don't. Or because you see something that they have seen, but what you believe is worth the risk to pursue. The opportunity that I see is a chance for us to put our country on this path, the path to full employment. Now that's a goal worth pursuing. Now it's a goal which others see as fraught with risk. But what I want to tell you is this path does not begin with big business. The SBA has in fact taught us that nearly 2/3 of all jobs come from small businesses, not big business. In fact, the Association for Enterprise Opportunity has taught us that microenterprises, businesses with less than 5 employees, if one in 3 of them simply created one job, that would be more jobs than we have unemployed people in our country. Now that's a tremendous opportunity, but I don't think we should stop there. I think we should look at those who are not yet in that category, who don't yet have businesses, and yet who have the talent and the need to create a business. Because within that crucible of where talent and need meet, tremendous entrepreneurs can be formed. In fact, I have found 1.5 million people who meet that criteria. Hofstra University, in fact, ran a study that showed these folks, who are illustrated in that red bar there, have more natural entrepreneurial talent than active business owners. These folks understand profit margins. They understand proprietary sales channels. They understand how to motivate a workforce. They know how to kill the competition. There's just one little challenge. They carry a label which carries an inherent amount of risk, and that's the label of an inmate, a prison inmate. There are 1.5 million people in this country currently in prison. But what I want you to think about, and the reason I want you to be an entrepreneur, think about that definition in the beginning, to look at risk and to perceive opportunity. Overlook the risk inherent in that man because he's a prisoner. Look at the opportunity within his life. Now, this market has ballooned in the last 30 years. In fact, in 1980, there were fewer than 2 million Americans under any form of correctional justice supervision. In the last 30 years, however, that has grown to over 7 million of our fellow Americans currently under correctional justice supervision. That's prison, that's jail, that's parole, that's probation. 1 in 33 Americans within that system, of whom 2.3 million are incarcerated. 800,000 in jail, 1.5 million in prison. Now 2.3 million is a really big figure, so I want to put it in some perspective for you. That means more people will sleep in a jail cell or a prison cell tonight than sleep in the entire state of New Mexico, or the entire state of West Virginia, or 13 other states in our country with a population less than the criminal justice department in our country. So this is an enormous population, and if I'm an entrepreneur, I don't want to look at this as a problem. I want to look at this as, these are folks whose talents I could capitalize on. In fact, our country is investing a tremendous amount of resources in these folks. $70 billion is poured into the corrections department across this country every single year. Now, as an entrepreneur, you understand, okay, these folks have talent. They can create businesses. Where's the money going to come from? I propose that we should look right here, because this money comes from a single investor who is very unhappy with their investment. That's the American taxpayer. You will never find an investor who's more willing to move their investment than the American taxpayer. So if I look at this as opportunity, I want you to understand this is the resource I believe we can tap if we can get them to ask this simple question. As an investor, what's our ROI for the $70 billion we pour into the system, which is an average of $31,000 per inmate per year? It's a great question, but I think if we can ask that, This is the secret to it. So this is the audience participation component of the program. I would like everyone to get on your feet. Everybody. I can't see you, so I'm going to have to trust you. And those of you who are watching online, get on your feet as well. Congratulations. You just graduated from the U.S. Department of Corrections. You represent the 700,000 Americans who are going to be released from prison this year, one every 45 seconds. Now, the only way, or the cleanest way to look at the ROI we have for our investment in you is to see how many of you guys come back to prison. All right, starting here, I want everyone from here over, you guys sit down. All right, about 50% of the crowd, sit down. All right, those who are still standing, you were released from prison this year. Before 2016, every one of you comes right back to prison. On a national recidivism rate is 50% of these folks come right back to prison. What's more is all these folks who are standing, they are responsible for 70% of all the crimes that are committed. 70% of all crimes are committed by felons with a former record who've been released. Now, I want the first row to sit down. Okay, you guys still came back to prison, but the ones who just sat down had a job when they came back to prison. 90% of the folks who returned to prison after getting released were unemployed at the time of their rearrest. All right, you guys can sit down now. That, from my perspective, is the opportunity here. So we know these folks have the talent that survey showed us. We also know they have the opportunity because they cannot get a job. Therefore, they need to create their own. Now, how are we going to do so? That's why I'd like to invite you to join me at looking at the opportunity within this crisis and to join me in the Prison Entrepreneurship Program within our gated community, where our goal is for every single one of our graduates to come back to prison. But we want them to come back not wearing the stripes or the blues, but to come back looking like this. As an entrepreneur, to challenge their brothers and sisters to say, I was in your shoes once, but I made it. The man raising his hand is a graduate of our program. He was an inmate. We worked with him to build a business plan, which today is generating over $1 million a year in sales, and he's hired over 30 people as a former inmate. If we can do that with him, I believe we can do it with anybody. Now, I'm not here to talk about the Prison Entrepreneurship Program per se. I'm here to tell you not what we do or how we do it even. I'm here to tell you what we believe, the compelling why that we hold, which I believe even those of you who are skeptical in the audience share with me, that if we look at this and we share that why, we can develop a way to approach this problem as an opportunity at every state in the country and every country in the world. So today I'm looking at this as an entrepreneur. And if I'm looking at 2.3 million Americans incarcerated, 1.5 million of whom are in prison, the first thing I want to do is what I would do as an investor. If you ask me to invest in your business, the first question I'll ask is, what are you putting into it? And if the answer is nothing, that's not a business I'm going to invest in. So the first thing we do with our folks that we're looking at is we ask, are they investing in themselves? This process is led by my friend Marcus, who is a business owner of Interchange Vision and Design. Marcus, in his day job, goes around Texas to the 112 prisons we have here in the state to find men who are willing to make that commitment to transforming their own lives. Now, I want to share with you just a quick background check on our current class, Class 19, so you understand where they're coming from and the burdens that they face. 3/4 of these men committed their first crime as children. Over half of them never knew their own father. 1/3 of them were once homeless. 10% grew up in the foster care system. Now, I don't share that with you because I want you to feel sorry for them. These men committed felonies and they deserve to be in prison. But if we want to tap their talents as entrepreneurs, which we know are vast, we have to find a way to overcome this background. The next thing we do is once we've accepted them, we challenge them to work harder than they have ever worked before. This program begins with a character building program focused on not equipping them with business talents, but with the integrity and accountability that they need to thrive. Because the last thing we want to do is teach a drug dealer how to leave prison with a better marketing strategy. We want to teach him how to harness those talents to build a real business. We make them go through an incredibly intense curriculum, 1,000 hours of classroom education, using a college textbook, Harvard MBA cases, the AP Writing Style Guide, a complete financial literacy course. They take a Toastmasters class while they're in prison. And yes, sitting in prison, even though half these men only have their GED, they will read Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment while sitting in prison. At the end of this robust program, they now earn not only a diploma from PEP, but a certificate in entrepreneurship from Baylor University's Hankamer School of Business, one of the top business schools in the entire country. Inmates who never once graduated now have that certification. Throughout this process, we also challenge them to strive for a goal that they once believed was impossible, something that everyone who knew them before they were locked up would say, you can never do that. That goal is very simple. It's to build a business plan for a legal business that you can then work with world-class executives and entrepreneurs who come to our prison to refine that business plan. You will then pitch it in a Shark Tank format 120 times over a 6-month period, where I would stand in front of you and I wouldn't say, my name is Jeremy Gregg, inmate number 254647. I would say, my name is Jeremy Gregg, proud founder and owner of Best Roofs in Texas. And I would tell you my business plan of how to build and grow my business. I would then continue to work with CEOs and executives to refine this business plan, culminating in a business plan competition on the day of graduation where they compete against their brothers to be named the winner of the BPC. On the day of graduation, which for many of our men is their first time in a cap and gown. We bring hundreds of their family and children to our prison to see them. And what breaks my heart is that every one of our 18 graduations, there has been at least one child who has met their daddy for the first time. They've walked into prison, an 8-year-old boy, and they've met a man who's incarcerated, but he's not wearing the stripes, he's wearing a cap and gown. And in one hand, he holds a certificate of entrepreneurship from Baylor University, and in the other hand, he holds a business plan. And he gets on his knee and he says, son, I am sorry I left you. I will never leave again, and we are going to build this business together for the future of our family. Thank you. Now, the hardest part about what we do is we work on holding each other accountable. This is not about charity. This is about opportunity. This process is led by this man, my friend Pat, who 20 years ago made a terrible choice that resulted in a man losing his life. He spent 18 years in prison as a murderer, and through PEP, he so radically transformed his own life that not only does he have a business on the outside, but he actually was named by the governor of Texas as the winner of one of the highest honors delivered by the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the Leonard Davis Service Award. If we can transform a murderer into somebody recognized by the governor of Texas for the work that he's done in the lives of others, we can transform the world. This process continues through our brothers who hold each other accountable, focused on not what you can do for yourself, but how do you give that woman the son that she deserved, the son that she gave birth to? How do you give that woman the husband that she married, the man to whom she pledged her eternal love, who together they can now build this business? How do you give that little boy his daddy back? While doing all of this, we support these guys from the inside out. We pick them up the day that they're released from prison. We take them to their first meal. We continue to engage them with the executives who've come to our prison on the outside. We engage them in ongoing education. This does not stop at prison. It continues every Tuesday night in entrepreneurship school. All of the men on this screen earned their second diploma from us, having graduated from E-School, attending 24 classes in a row. We can then also support them as business owners. Those who are serious about their business, we equip them with consulting, access to customers, we give them loans, we help them truly build their business. Now, the question you should be asking me is, what's the ROI? What are the results? And I want to tell you, compared to the national average of a 50% recidivism, PEP has had as low as a 5% recidivism dealing with the exact same population. Keep in mind, half these men never knew their father. 3/4 of them were arrested as children, and yet very few ever go back to prison. The way we do so actually saves you and saves me $5 million in reduced costs of future government for every 100 graduates that we graduate. It costs us less than $1 million to do so. That's a 500% ROI within 3 years. That's a pretty good return on investment. In addition to that, the average ex-offender is about a 40% unemployment rate at any time they're released. And I am very proud to tell you, every single PEP graduate since May of 2010 who's been released from prison has found a job within 90 days of release from prison. Average wage more than $11 an hour. That becomes the platform for them to then pursue their business, which 120 of them have done. We have men who were once homeless, addicted to drugs, living on the street. Today are building businesses that are employing their brothers. We have 120 guys who created businesses. At least 2 are generating over $1 million a year in sales. Businesses include a print shop, a demolition hauler, a moving company, home remodeling shops. We have a guy who works in partnership with a glass producer to take trash glass and repurpose it into beautiful art, the way he has repurposed his own broken life. These men have done tremendous things with no access to capital. As a result of these, we've been profiled by quite a few people looking around the world, quite a few media publications. The man on the screen is an NPR reporter. I love locking up reporters. He was part of quite a few people who've covered us in the last year, the New York Times, the Financial Times, the Wall Street Journal, and I share this with you because this is truly an idea worth spreading. Why is the world paying attention to this? It's not because PEP is so great. It's because they understand we need to transform this system. 9 states and 3 countries have sent teams to visit us over the last 8 years. 3 of them are now delivering pilots based on PEP. 1 is operating in Germany, 1 is in the UK, and there's 1 in Virginia. So I know this is an idea worth spreading. I know this is something we can do if we have the willpower to look at this system, not just as a place of punishment, but as a platform of opportunity for healing these very, very broken lives. So as we move forward, I want to encourage you, let's look at prison not just as that place of punishment, but as that platform of opportunity, not just for healing those broken lives, but building the businesses that can carry our country forward. Thanks so much. I'll see you in prison.